Welcome to the 8 Billion Project, where we're on a mission to make an impact by discovering and sharing the purpose of every person on this planet. I'm your host, Lisa Florida. Enjoy today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 8 Billion Podcast. I am your host, Lisa Florida, and today it is truly an honor to share this special guest with you. She was born in El Salvador and raised in the Northeast United States. She's the creative director, feng shui expert, and founder of Zenotica. Zenotica? Zenotica.
Zenotica. Yeah.
I'm going to have you. It's a design studio and platform for holistic healing based in Houston. Welcome, Patsy Balachi, to the 8 Billion Podcast. How are you doing today?
Doing wonderful being here. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Now, first things first, Patsy, I have to apologize. Could you please pronounce that?
Patsy Balaki from Zenotica.
And Zenotica?
Zenotica.
Zenotica. And that is your design studio and platform.
Yes.
Patsy is multi-talented and she's got not a lifetime, but lifetimes of wisdom to share. So it's truly an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
Now, Patsy, here, you have over 20 years of experience in graphic and web design.
Yes.
And then you have a deep love for architecture.
Yeah.
And then you intertwine that and you fuse all of that with the spiritual work that you do. Now, when I came across Patsy, she was referred by another one of our guests on season 5. And they are good friends. And she's like, you absolutely have to meet Patsy. Mm-hmm. And so when I met Patsy in her meeting, I was like, Patsy, you are the epitome of what's, the human soul is walking right now. And so it is truly, like I said, I can never say it enough. It's an honor to have you here to share your work.
It's an honor to be here. And thank you for those wonderful words.
Now, Patsy, could you tell us a little bit more? I know that I just gave a brief summary of the work that you've done, but if you could tell us a little bit more of what you do.
Thanks. In simplest forms, Lisa, I would say my passion is to live in harmony. And I want to sum it down to what it is to be in that environment of we can actually accept and understand what that means and really be in harmony with our own energies and that with nature. As we are walking around on Earth, many people have been feeling very disconnected, feeling a sense of loss, feeling a sense of abandonment or of not belonging or not knowing where to go. I was there at one point in my life, and something within me woke up and said, there's more to life than this. And no matter how much you try to make things perfect, there will be something we can achieve in a different plane, not on this earth. But if you can strive to live in harmony with yourself by accepting, understanding, and having compassion to myself, then things will shift in a way that things will feel a little more easier to cope with, whether it's a health issue. For me, that was my wake-up moment when I had a tremendous experience with where I almost lost my life after giving birth to my firstborn from a blood transfusion that was contaminated with hepatitis C. So can you see, in a way, I was saved by this, and at the same time, I had this soul contract to make amends with a virus or with something else that I needed to master in this life. Yeah. And what was that? Liver health, heart health, meaning emotional health, physical health, how to work with emotions. And really that's something that was a huge, I would say, aha moment for me. Because the physical aspect is just probably one of those areas where we pay attention after something has broken. But we haven't paid attention when our heart has been broken or we just let it go when something else is bothering us. We just keep carrying that because we don't want to bother somebody. We don't want to make a fuss. But then our heart is yearning for attention and our physical body breaks because we're not giving it attention. And that was basically what my breakthrough process was, learning how to cope with something that at the time I didn't know I was going to be able to heal from it. Medicine was not adequate for my body and I couldn't take it. So I lived for almost 26 years thinking that I will be living with the hepatitis C for the rest of my life. So I had to sort of live with that and create an environment that will sustain my wellness as good as I could have it in order to continue living my life. And that's what I did.
Now, what were, if you don't mind my asking, what were like some of the things that like medical or like physical symptoms that you would have to deal with
hepatitis C, fortunately for me, they were not physically apparent.
Okay.
I kept myself very, I would say, healthy and fit in the way that I was eating the proper foods in order to nourish my body.
Yeah.
My biggest were emotions or in toxic relationships. That was probably one of the areas that I had to learn how to say no and keep safe boundaries because the liver was being attacked. And the liver is basically the organ that processes not only everything that comes into your body from the skin, to the blood and everything, but also it processes emotions.
It sure. Oh.
And so one of the biggest triggers for me was anger. Like I had a spike of just being, one of those fire thorns all the time, and anything will just snap. And it was perhaps, sure, I would say my personality was a bit strong, but with that undertaking, that was actually a lot more for people to understand where I was coming from. It was hard, but it was something that was triggering the anger issues. And with that came a lot, if we start thinking, once I started learning how to work with feng shui for health, I started peeling the layers on what it is to live in harmony with this organ and for myself, and all the layers that correspond to the liver. Is not just that part of the internal environment, but also the person that's attached to it, and was my father's issues. Then we also have how it correlates to the exterior space. And for me, it was a confidence thing. It was a confidence issue. It's like, okay, how I felt like I was dirty at one point, meaning that I couldn't have a healthy, open relationship with someone because I'm carrying a disease and I can get somebody else sick. Yeah. Put it that way. So it was those little things that I always I had a separate nail cutter, a separate scissors, separate everything, because I felt subconsciously that I was contaminated.
Wow, that is a lot to deal with. On top of knowing that you have to be emotionally like in control, yes, or you're going to make the situation worse.
Yes.
What's really interesting when you brought that up, my mother passed of bile duct cancer, which is liver. And I had one of my friends, he's an astrologer and an intuitive. He was my reader for many years. He was telling me, it was the first time I had heard that liver and anger are very much connected together. And so for me, I have even a full understanding now that it was a lot of anger that my mom never got to express or, release, because she had, of course, marital problems.
For me, I've always said I'm the type that if there's something bothering me, everybody's going to know it. I can't hold it inside. But that was the thing. And then of course I would have probably bad experiences with my loved ones because I'd be snapping at them when they don't understand what's happening to me.
Yeah.
So that to me, I had to be very careful on how to handle emotions and process, right? Think before speaking. So I basically learned to be a better listener because of that. And that was very good.
Wow. But and then another thing that we talked about when I first met you was ever since you were young though, Patsy, you always had this deep connection to nature and the world.
And that I believe it was like a friend of mine, Herman, says, nature is my equilibrium. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I can live without it, honestly. We live in constricted environments, completely constricted, and we're so busy with life that we forget to even step outside for 5 minutes. And I
Yeah.
notice when I don't do that, even if it's cold or however the weather is during the day, I have to be outside
Yeah.
no matter what.
So do you
I
spend a good amount
feel
of
a sense of
oh I'm
not as much as not as much as I would like to, honestly, but a good 30 minutes
yeah.
at
That's
least.
exactly it for me too. Like if I mean I spend more than 30 minutes, but if I was going back to back with either podcast recordings or work, even if for me I have to just walk around the block.
Yeah.
I just needed the feeling of expansion.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now we have a veggie garden. We grow our own vegetables at home, and that's basically my excuse to go outside and take care of the garden.
And Patsy is vegan too, right?
I am plant-based.
You're
Yes.
plant-based. So a lot of your whole life has been centered around very much like holistic practices.
I was very fortunate to have found wonderful practitioners and healers at the very, early 90s when I first started diving into learning more about me, learning more about the disease, learning about how to cope with something that is out of my control. And
Mhm.
when, let's say, when I tried traditional medicine, it was a very big disappointment because it totally messed up my system. It got to a point, I was in my early 20s. You could just imagine me without hair, maybe 101 pounds, and looking really terrible. And I'm like, oh my God, am I going to be like this for the rest of my life? How long am I going to live like that? And I just had to stop the medicine. It just didn't work. And I just said, well, there has to be something else. There has to be a different way. And that's something within me struck a spark, I would say, of curiosity to see what was there. And I started diving into Asian traditional medicine, herbal medicine, and of course, spirituality. I started learning more about Buddhism. I started learning more about Native American spirituality.
Mm.
And that's really what helped me get through and of course, my disappointment. Somehow I felt like I was carrying this disease for a reason, as if I had to have it. Like I was worthy enough to have it because I did something wrong, kind of
Mhm.
like those old religious paradigms, with being raised Catholic. It was one of those things that was kind of like embedded. It's like, okay, well, you sin and that's what you deserve to do. And it's like, no.
I know,
this is
right?
something that I contracted. And honestly, after years of practice and learning more about what this is, I got to understand and really sort of like commune with the virus. And I said, if I am your host, let's be friends. What
Yeah.
is it that I need to learn from this? And that's where everything else opened. I started learning more about Ayurvedic diet. I became a vegetarian. I practice chiropractic, acupuncture, yoga, Kriya yoga, all these other tools, and of course, energy balancing modalities, including feng shui, in order for me to continue my life because I really enjoy living.
Yeah, of course you do. And I'm
Yeah.
so glad that and it's the same as me. And I think that that happens with a lot of people. That's our journey of discovering our true self and getting to the source of our
Yes.
highest truth, right? Is trying everything and seeking teachers and messages and learning so much. That's been my life too. Then of course you come to the Eastern practices of feng shui. Now, can you share with us in the audience how you incorporate that into your either everyday life or in your business?
It's definitely been a part of my life. I've been practicing feng shui for, wow, over 20 years. And I got to learn about it through my wonderful mentor, Andy Santo Pietro, and we're still doing a lot of work. There was a point in my life that I wanted to move to New York just to like really dive into this. This was in the late 1990s, early 2000s, but lo and behold, I meet a wonderful person, my partner, my husband, and things just totally shift for me. Instead of focusing on something more professional for self-knowledge and wisdom, I decided to dedicate my life into building an environment, a home for myself. So when I started diving into feng shui, it started off as learning how to work with it within the environment, architecturally wise, or through design, interior design. And it was fine. It was fun. It was great how we can incorporate certain aesthetics, how to work with the energy of the land, so to speak, to support your environment. But it was not like, oh, I'm really crazy about this. But one time I went to one of my favorite spiritual bookstores in Miami, and this book just kind of came out, and the title was Harmony by Design. And of course, harmony is one of my favorite words of all time, and design. And then I picked it up and it was Andy, at the time she was Nancy, and it was all about seeing how the energies will impact your life internally. So I started diving in and started talking about chakra energies and how do we tap into those energy centers in our bodies, in ourselves, in order to create something in our lives through our environment, and how that's deeply connected with patterns that we keep repeating in our lives, whether the pattern is a health issue, a relationship, a career path. Like everything was kind of interconnected, and basically how we have come on this plane, on this life, in order to fulfill a mastery through those life experiences. And how we create them in our environment, unconsciously, subconsciously, and consciously. And
Now,
that's what really just got to me. And of course, after that, I started diving into feng shui for health, because it's just so intertwined. Nothing happens without you in it. As within, so without. And it was just purely like, wow, I need to learn this. I need to know this. I need to really get myself into that. And as I started digging into how am I presenting myself in my life? What is it that I am seeing in every single aspect of my home? What is it saying back to me? What is it communicating to me? And those places that were, let's say, abandoned because it's the place that we don't clean because that's where we keep the dirty laundry, or things like that. It's those places that really you have to kind of give them even more love, because those places carry a lot of stagnation.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting because and I think maybe the audience, and I'm going to go ahead and ask this for them. For me, and for most of everyone, our understanding of feng shui comes from, of course, Eastern practices, and it's furniture and architecture. I didn't even know that there was feng shui for the body and the inner self.
Well, think of it as acupuncture for the home, and think of that, how everything correlates. You have a thought, an idea, and how is that what are you going to do about that?
Yeah.
And if there's something that you need to say, for example, if you love to communicate and you feel stuck because you can't find the right words, so there's something going on with your throat chakra, perhaps, or a confidence issue. So we have to kind of dig in and peel some layers and see where this feeling of stuckness is coming through. So that's where we get to. Or are you feeling fully supported? Is your foundation center now? We think of our legs being fully supported on the ground, but now that we're on this new phase and new era, our new foundation center is our heart. So how
Yes.
balanced are we? How balanced are we in order to fulfill our dreams and wishes?
Absolutely. Because for me, though, Patsy, the way that I've always been here and up. So, I know I didn't operate like most of the people. That's why probably these times going into 5D are going to be perfect for me. I've been told so many times, like, you're so good with heart up, Lisa, you need to ground.
Yeah.
So that's now it's like making sense to me. Like,
Yes.
I would have to find out like what's happening in my lower chakras that I'm probably not taking care of, which is why I was having a hard time grounding.
Yes. And that's happened to me also. People who have been practicing a lot with spirituality kind of have that sense of being. So I'm always here. I'm always dreaming, while I'm sleeping or just traveling on the
Right.
astral, doing a lot of light work or however you want to call it. It was really hard for me to materialize things. I'll think of something, for example, and it's done. Like I already completed it. It's done. But then no, it's like I have to actually, roll up my sleeves, dig in the dirt, and put on some sticks to create my, house.
But is that how fast you could manifest?
Perhaps not on this plane, but definitely, like, I have been very, very lucky. One thing that I'm sharing this with you, I told my mentor, I said, I had never ever planned anything in my life other than my second pregnancy, because I was still with hepatitis C. But anything else like that, no. It's just I have
It
an
happens.
idea. I have an idea of what I want, and if it feels right, it's instantaneous.
Wow.
That's how it happens for me. Like, I go with the flow, but knowing that it's an okay. And if it's not an okay, it's a really hard, like, So I trust my intuition a lot. And I remember when I was young, I had a lot of difficulty with people because my mom always said, you always say you don't like that person. You just met them. I'm like, I don't like that person. I don't. It was just
Because
immediate.
your intuition knew.
Yes.
Could you ever explain that to your mom?
Afterwards, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
But
you
we're
were were you
pretty
pretty?
spot on. Let me tell you, it happens like this. If I'm driving, I can sense the car where it's going and if it's going to, like, create havoc. So I go the other way. And then a few seconds later, that car is in an accident.
Wow.
I've saved my life many times, crossing the street in New York, things like that.
No,
Things
Patsy, the
remarkable.
rate at which you can manifest is going to be incredible, because as we're even moving into more 5D, if some of us haven't made that ascension already or move into there, I mean, everything's going to be so fast. So you can pretty much build a whole universe if you'd like.
I think it's important at this time that if somebody's feeling sensitive with the energies, some people may feel a sense of being in, ecstatic emotion, ecstatic. Some may feel static, like stagnant, or like feeling really a lot of sense of depression and dross and negativity. But it's something telling you need to act, you need to do something for yourself, because
Yes.
otherwise it's just going to run you over. That's how strong the energy is. And if you are vulnerable, if your body, your mind, your spirit is vulnerable to that, it's going to continue, I would say, absorbing those energies.
No, absolutely. And then if you really don't take care of it and you ignore it, it's going to end up like disease
Yes,
or health
absolutely.
issues.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And I feel, right now there's a lot of people feeling a sense of a lot of mental drainage, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
emotional baggage, and feeling so disconnected and abandoned. But it's also at the same time, it's like, okay, what are we doing to tilt the scale, to make a change about that? And at
You
the same time, as a collective level, if you're feeling that, picking up that energy, so it creates this ripple effect that, it's not really the most harmonious one. We need to actually spend some time and dive in and be in, I would say, seclusion or in a place of stillness to really ask those questions to yourself and say, what is it that I need right now? Where can I go from here? The answers are within. You just have to clear your mind and clear that space to receive the message from from yourself, from your higher self, or from yourself. We are creator beings. We are divine beings walking on earth right now. We need to claim this, our sovereignty.
Absolutely.
And for me, it has been, it's taken me a little while to actually say I am a sovereign being. Like it was like, oh my gosh, am I really that? It's like, no, you have to claim it.
You do have to claim it. This is all about reclamation right now, this energy field. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's all about remembering who you are and tapping into that greater source and power that's within and activating it amongst so many people, because that's what Patsy and I were talking to when we first met. We were saying that it's a close call right now with even with Mother Earth and Mama Gaia.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like we know that if we all don't do our part to do our work, and that even means your own personal journey of healing, that we all contribute. Everything is energy, guys. So
we are all connected. Whether we think of it about it or not, we are all interconnected. One thought, one vision, honestly. And if we think about it that way, what is it that we're contributing to ourselves, and how is that impacting our planet?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, Patty, when you have, let's talk about the work that you do. When you have a client, do they come to you for the full, the whole deal, like it's feng shui in the home, or do you do feng shui in the body and then the home and then everything else?
It's actually a combination of that. Whenever I'm invited and, I've been given permission to work with the person, with the individual or the family, I don't really particularly work with the children as a one-on-one, I would say, but definitely with the person who requested the consultation. So it's basically a total assessment of energy of the environment, whether it's a house or an apartment, to the actual person as well. So as the person is talking to me, I'm picking up signals. Even if some people used to actually write the overview, so the bios, what is their intentions, or what is it that they would like to fulfill, with the consultation. Or I always ask if there are some patterns that they keep experiencing in their lives, certain clues, I would say. But usually when they're drawing me a diagram of their space, such as a floor plan, or when they're handwriting their bio, there's a lot of energy that comes through that as well. I can, what is it that they're not saying? What is it that, how the tone of their voice, if it, there's something about that I pick up as well, where I can sense a sense of intranquility or anxiety or loss or things like that just basically come through just by communing with that person in person. Of course, I can pick it up too and virtually, but when you are there with that person in front of you, there's a lot that happens there.
There's a lot that happens, yes. And we are coming upon those times where we could just read that. I mean, if you truly tapped in, you could feel and sense a person's energetic field. That's why for me too, Patsy, like I've just noticed, I mean, I love people and being around them and being a social, but as time has gone by and I've gone down I'm really working on like a ascension, like high energy frequency work. It's hard for me to be around a lot of people. Like I really have to ground energy like all day, every day.
Go on a solo retreat. That's why for me, I don't mind staying home I prefer to do virtual work. I really, yeah, I'm very sensitive to the energies, and sometimes more than others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. These Patsy and I could sit here and talk, and I'm pretty sure Patsy and I are going to have more conversations offline. But Patsy, if there is anyone that is interested in doing a consultation with you to see if it is right or there's alignment with working with you, how would they be able to get a hold of you?
Oh, yes, definitely. They can find me on Zenotica, Zenotica.com. I have a complimentary connection call available. I will always love to connect with people and see where they are, and if what is it that I'm able to do for them, because the work that I provide is perhaps not the typical feng shui assessment that you would think I'm going to go and make your place pretty. No, we actually get down and dirty,
Yeah.
really with a heart-based connection, really seeing a sense of compassion and not judgment. That's something that I learned along the way. I was very judgmental about myself, so I didn't want to recreate that scenario with somebody else, because honestly, when somebody's requesting a consultation, they're making a huge soul contract for that. Huge. They have no idea. And if they're working with me, or and somebody that's doing this kind of special work, when you're tapping into the frequency of love and compassion and not judgment to take you to the next level, if this is not in harmony, we're not going to be able to survive the next level of our human existence.
It's so interesting that you say that right now, Patsy, because that's exactly what I've been working with even in the last week or so, because it's the highest frequency that I can be on. And right now it's, I've heard lots of people, you're just the observer right now. There's no judgment. Any old stories of unworthiness, it has to leave your field.
Yeah.
Because if not, and this is what you, myself, a lot of the light workers, healers around the world are doing. It's moment after moment, our conscious thoughts are creating something.
And you know what the beauty about this new era is? That there's no more karma. The work that you're doing right now as an energy ascension light worker, light master, we are getting rid of all that karmic debris. Like, we have this huge opportunity to start over.
Yes.
But we have to really peel all this, take that out, and to really, and of course, don't leave it empty. You really need to nourish yourself.
You really do. And I tell you that because a lot of people are saying, like, for me, that's why I really believe, like, I came here during this period of this specific time frame in my life, in my 40s, and to do this, because this is a lot of just, it's love. So people, I mean, right now there's so much frenzy going on in the industry, right? Because with coaching, oh, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. It's very masculine work. I was like, you guys, it is a small portal we are going through that's going to make that whole difference of how this all shifts.
And let me tell you something, the feminine energy is very strong. And if doing a little digging here and there, all the ancient cultures really honor the divine feminine. It was the one that was kind of because you masculine do what they need to do and honor them, but it's a feminine force that's guiding that. And now that we're coming through this timeline, we're beginning to remember that we have this beautiful, harmonious power within us that can take us to the next level with innocence, with purity and clarity, and just, I would say, tenderness. Every time when I'm doing this work, honestly, I feel like I'm in my mother's womb. It just really feels so beautiful. Like, I can't explain it.
Yes. Even for me, the work that I do with 8 billion, like sitting here, having the conversations, all of that this feels like creation for me. When I start moving into the other side of the work, it's not my natural space, or it's not my natural state of flow. But my guides were just telling me it's okay. The reason why, you know what I mean? The reason why you're in that space that you're in naturally performing, that's why we gave you this gift.
Wow.
Because it's not going to be this hustle and bustle from the time, you wake up all the way to the time you sleep. It's just really creative flow.
Yes. And creativity comes in waves.
Yes.
You just got to ride the wave.
We just got to ride the wave. Oh my gosh, Patsy, you bring so much wisdom, not only to, hear and sharing it here on 8 billion, but with all the work that you do with your clients and just by your being, you bring so much love and wisdom. It is an absolute honor to have had you on, of course, 8 billion, and to share your story. And I know we're going to do so many different things together.
I know it too.
Yeah. I really feel that.
You have a wonderful, somehow there's this, I would say, nucleus that is just unfolding for you. Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing. Like everything about it, it just feels very, very strong and very powerful in a good sense, in a beautiful harmonic sense.
No, thank you so much.
I applaud you, and I'm very honored to be a part of this community with you, because honestly, this is how we could make our earthly plane a better experience for us. Because this, as you take care of you, you take care of me. I say, take care of me, I take care of you. And then we take care of each other.
It's exactly it. It's at the very core of it. It's the golden rule, right? Do unto others.
Yes, exactly. And it's not about being, and it's not about being selfless, because that's an old paradigm. This is about self-love. And if you come into terms knowing that you are a sovereign creator, being of love and light, imagine what we could do together if we're vibing to that frequency of love together.
Yeah.
No ego.
That's an absolute beautiful place to leave that. Oh, I wish I could talk to you. Well, I'm sure I'll have more conversations with you. But for the audience, I will go ahead and put it in the show notes or anywhere that you're finding this on that platform if you'd like to get a hold of Patsy. So thank you again, Patsy, for being a part of the 8 billion family, because we're only in the beginning to grow this. And thank you, audience, for tuning into this week's episode of 8 Billion Podcast. I will see you on next week's episode. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the 8 Billion Podcast. If it's moved you in any way, please share your thoughts or give us a review on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. To listen to more episodes, go to 8billionpodcast.com, or to learn more about our mission, go to 8billionproject.com.